with Thunder Breakdown.
Well, deep breath, everyone, because we have something that is going to happen in the NBA. It's kind of hard to believe. And that is a game 7 in the NBA Finals for the first time in 9 seasons. It's why many people have talked about this being one of the best finals, probably in that span of games as well. And I know there's probably not a lot of Thunder fans that want to agree with that coming up, at least in this moment, after what just happened in game number 6, in which the Indiana Pacers, well, let's just say there wasn't a whole lot that went right for Oklahoma City at all tonight, if anything, outside of the first handful of minutes. J-Dub and Shea had brief moments, but that was about it. And during the halftime hangout, we had Carl Torp on from News 9, and he had asked a question about if you're Mark Dagnall, who, man, I still think has been outcoached a bit in this series, and maybe not even a bit, maybe by a lot more, and facing off against Rick Carlisle. But the question was, how do you handle the rest of this game? And we had talked about whittling the lead down to a specific number by the time you got to the third quarter. And whatever time that you had in your mind, the lead needs to be down to this. And I was writing down numbers here, and with 4 minutes and 17 seconds left in the third quarter, Oklahoma City had cut it to 18. But on that next possession, it was Siakam, who was an absolute animal tonight, all over the floor. We've got some numbers that prove just how good Indiana is defensively when he's on the floor. He's one of the defensive metrics and how he has scored have put him in a category of only like 5 guys in the history of the playoffs have averaged the defensive statistics and offensive numbers that he has. Just incredible. And I keep going back to 2019. Look, Kawhi basically went God mode for the Raptors in that finals against the Warriors, but the Raptors would not have won that championship without Siakam and his level of play. And when Indiana got him in the deal, we knew that this could potentially be a difference maker, and he's showing how much of a difference maker that he can be on the floor. That dunk that he had on the pass from Halliburton, on the turnover from J-Dub, like I don't want to go completely overboard here, but I start thinking about moments in finals where it is kind of a game changer. I'm not calling it that. I'm just saying that if it ends up going Indiana's way, like I look back at that moment, I'm like, man, that is a huge, huge moment. Turnover from J-Dub. Siakam throws it down on him. J-Dub tried to contest the shot, and it wasn't even close. But just a ton of momentum plays at all. And I don't want this to sound like the sky is falling because, after all, they flashed this graphic up on the television. Oklahoma City this season is 18-2 following a loss. So they've bounced back almost every single time. But, man, Game 7s are a little different. They're just a little different. And now, if you were to ask me, as confident as I was, say, right before the game started, and especially when they got off to a 10-2 run, everyone had the same thought. I feel like even nationally, which was, yeah, this one could be over. Like, how can Indiana, after what has happened the last couple of games, even have a response back at home? Well, the reason why is because they have a great culture at Indiana, and they were able to feed off of that. And again, I feel like a broken record in this series. When Indiana has success, it's because of the bench and what they've accomplished. It was 10-2. Nembhard then goes with 8 straight points. You see T.J. McConnell come in. You see Tony Bradley come in. T.J. McConnell was a nightmare for every member of the Thunder tonight. Just making play after play, diving on the floor, getting loose balls. And the guy has such an impact in such a short amount of time tonight. Tony Bradley as well. Just big play after big play for him. And after that moment, like you were kind of looking around thinking, when is Oklahoma City going to have a response? We talked about this at halftime. In the second quarter, it was only SGA and J-Dub that had a field goal. Everyone else was 0 for in the second quarter, including Chet, who was 0 for 5. Chet seemingly non-existent tonight. I know Dort hit 1-3 in the second, but where was he this evening? Hartenstein had a few brief moments, but when Oklahoma City, and they every now and then they'll have a game like this, which is why I don't know, unless things get tight coming up on Sunday in Game 7. I'm still at a point where I really don't know what's going to happen now based off of what we saw, because this series has just been great. It's been all over the place too. Just when you think that you have an idea about how things can go and finish, the script gets completely flipped. But this stretch to me is really what sealed it for Oklahoma City tonight. So we're in a closeout game with an opportunity to win an NBA championship. And from the 6:48 mark, the second quarter, to halftime, Oklahoma City has 11 possessions where they do absolutely zero with the ball. None. Nothing at all. You can go and run down the play-by-play, and it's ugly. And we'll probably have to do that for you when we come back on the opposite side, because I want to go to the podium right now because Mark Dagnall is meeting with the media. I'll put a little pin in that so we can bring that up a little bit later, but it's very, very important to me.
That's the word from our standpoint. First of all, credit Indiana. I thought they obviously earned the win. They outplayed us for most of the 48 minutes, and that's the story of the game. They went out there and attacked the game. From our standpoint, it was uncharacteristic. It was disappointing, but it was collective. It wasn't one guy. Just we were not where we needed to be on either end of the floor for much of the game, and we have to be a lot better, before Game 7.
First row, Joel.
Joel Lorenzi with the Oklahoma. Mark, I think the figure I saw was that the 60 points you had leading into the fourth was the fewest you've had in the game through three quarters all season. Sort of, what did you feel was lacking, especially stylistically and competitively on offense, and were there moments that you thought you should have capitalized on?
I'll look at it. Obviously, it was a very poor performance by us, but there's two teams out there. I want to give Indiana credit for the way they defended, the way they competed in the game, the way they played all the way around. They had a lot to do with it. And there was stuff that I thought we could have controlled that could have been better. So we have to own that. We'll look at it. We'll learn from it like we always do. And then we got to obviously be much better going into Game 7.
Front row, Barry.
Yeah, Barry Trammell, Tulsa World. You actually outshot them in the first half, and you're getting beat 22. Is that a sign that just everything else, you played with no force or no will or whatever the word might be?
Yeah, I think obviously the turnovers in the first half, that's uncharacteristic for us to turn it over like that. That led to fast break points. I thought that's what ignited them. And it was a lot of it was an offensive issue, tonight, and especially in the first half. I just thought we were really stagnant. I thought some of that was, like I said, the way Indiana played. There's two teams out there, and they deserve a lot of credit for how they played tonight. So we'll look at it, learn from it, figure out what we need to do to be better, and we're going to go out there and execute it in Game 7.
Fourth row on the right, David.
Mark, I know you know this, and I know your players know this, but is it in any way instructive to them, being a young team that has never had a chance to clinch a championship before, to see how incredibly hard it is to win a fourth game to win an NBA championship?
It was hard tonight. Indiana was great, and we were not. So we have the same opportunity Indiana does on Sunday. Score will be 0-0 when the ball goes up in the air. It's a privilege to play in Game 7s. It's a privilege to play in the finals. As disappointing as tonight was, we're grateful for the opportunity And we put in a lot of work this season to be able to play that game at home, which is exciting to be able to do it in front of our fans. So, obviously disappointed tonight, but we'll regroup, get back to zero, learn from it with clear eyes like we always do, get ourselves as ready as we can be to play Game 7 on Sunday.
First row, third seat in.
Joe Masato, the Oklahoman. Mark, when Indiana was going on kind of an extended run after you guys took an early lead in the first quarter, looked like maybe there was moments where you could have called timeout. I know that didn't end up having any bearing on the game, but was that you sort of maybe waiting for your guys to show something, or kind of didn't want to like give in to the crowd, or what Indy was doing?
I mean, the timeout thing's an art. You get I use 5 of them before the 7-minute mark of the third. So you don't get an unlimited number. And we have to have the ability to play through some things. I thought I tried to stop the play when I could, but all the way around, we just weren't where we needed to be tonight. But our ability to course correct in game is important. We've done that well. We have to do that in these games, 48-minute game.
I think you guys were 1 of 11 from 3 in the first half, and I'm not sure you even had a corner 3. And that's happened a few times in the series. How concerning is not only the lack of accuracy, but volume of threes at certain points of this series?
Yeah, it's definitely been an issue in some of these games. Game 4 comes to mind. I think we got 17 in that game. Thought we found some things in Game 5. And I thought they did a really good job on us tonight. I thought the low volume and the accuracy was reflective of the way they guarded us, and our inability to create a rhythm against that, the way that we've been able to do in some of the other games. So we'll look at it, learn from it. We obviously have to be a lot better on Sunday if we want to win the game.
Last question, first row.
Joseph Pavone, clutch points. Just the beginning of that second half offensively. I mean, you went 0 for 5 from 3. Had a chance to regroup there. What did you see go wrong in the sense of your offense throughout that second half, just from the third quarter to the end of the or heading into the fourth?
Yeah, I mean, as disappointing as the first half was, the game is in striking distance at that point. If you come out and you throw the first punch, and we strung together some stops. I mean, I think it was 2-0 at the first time out, so it wasn't a defensive issue. But I just thought the offense all night was a click slow. Again, Indiana played great. They deserved to win. They had a lot to do with that, so not discrediting them at all. But we also have to look in the mirror, learn from the game, be a lot better on Sunday.
Thank you, Coach.
All right.
So the point I was trying to make about Mark, or before we went to Mark, was this. And it was, this is a closeout Game 6, chance to win an NBA championship. You weren't getting much out of anyone, and we know how bad that start was to the third quarter. So let's go back to the end of the second quarter. There's a stretch at 6:48 where there was 11 straight possessions from Oklahoma City where they did absolutely nothing. As a matter of fact, in that stretch, you had 5 missed threes. You had 3 turnovers that were included in that stretch, and it was everybody. Like it was a J-Dub turnover. There was an SGA turnover that was in there. There was an SGA miss, multiple threes. And just playing in an environment like that against that team when everything is stacking up against you, there's not many instances in games where you're going to win when you have 11 straight possessions, especially when possessions have been your friend in this postseason. I mean, we get focused on so many different stats, but just go and look at the possession numbers. Oklahoma City's had by far the most amount of possessions. In the first half alone, there was a stat I think that we had at halftime. It was Oklahoma City had 32 shots and Indiana had 57. Now, a lot of that's because of the turnover situation that they happen. And speaking of turnovers, like, I hate to keep, going overboard about this, but man, in a closeout game, you want your star to be the dude. He still has every opportunity to do that in Game 7, but man, 8 turnovers for SGA tonight, and only 7 made shots. And again, you ask the question, like, how much of that was just looking up and seeing everything snowball you on that moment? I think a lot of it honestly had to do with Indiana's just defensive tenacity tonight. They were everywhere. They had active hands. They were being able to stop a ton of different paint penetrations, and you could really tell that it was truly bothering OKC tonight. There was another game that was in this series where J-Dub was just talking about how it seemed like they were getting every 50-50 ball. I think it was Game 3 back in Indiana. J-Dub specifically said they got to every 50-50 ball. They beat us on everything. One of my keys to the game, news9.com right now, was you got to win the margins. I'd have to go back and look just at the box score. There's probably not many of the margins at all that Oklahoma City won tonight. That's possessions, turnovers, rebounds, everything. It was just a bad performance from everyone. Now, you got to rely on the culture that you've built. You got to rely on what your core philosophy is, what Mark and the team talks about every single time, and just have faith that you're going to bounce back and operate offensively, because there really weren't many things that were operating well at all tonight on the offensive end. A couple of other quick stats that I saw here just a few moments ago. TJ McConnell. TJ McConnell now is the first bench player in NBA history with 60-plus points, 25 assists, and 15-plus rebounds in an NBA Finals game. Like, TJ McConnell, and he was the engine tonight for Indiana. He got things going. I love the dynamic that Carlisle had, which was, hey, let's put him and Halliburton on the floor at the same time. All right, let's check in on some of the chats. Let's see. Here's one. Yeah. I'm so sick of the Pacers. I'm sure there are a ton of fans that feel that way tonight. In particular, probably TJ McConnell, because he has been a problem this entire series. Obi Toppin finishes with 20. TJ McConnell had 12 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 steals coming off of the bench. So, as we mentioned, the first Game 7 since 2016. I cannot believe that it's been that long. Is that the LeBron series with the Warriors? I think it is, where the Cavs came back from 3-1. Yeah, yes, McConnell is tenacious and a pain in the A. Yeah, that's absolutely what he is. He's that dude that you love when he's on your team, and you can't stand him when he's on the opponent. It's the same way that people feel about Lou Dort. Like, you know what? I'll go to war with Lou Dort, but other teams and other fans cannot stand him at all. So Indiana 6-0 in Game 6s over the last 10 seasons. They hit the magic 110 mark again, so now they're 15-0 when they score 110 points in a game. There have been 19 Game 7s in NBA Finals history. So we've had 5 of them, and that's counting the one that we'll have coming up on Sunday, that have all happened this century. 2005, 2010, 2013, 2016, and now in 2025. The one note that I did hear just a few moments ago, Tom Haberstroh had this, and it's very interesting because as much as I want to sit here and say, hey, Oklahoma City's 18-2 when they have a loss, that's their bounce back record. So Haberstroh said that there are only 3 teams in NBA Finals history that have lost Game 6 by 20 or more points and then have gone on to play Game 7. Those teams are 1-2 in Game 7s. So that's one on the history side that is not necessarily in Oklahoma City's favor. Again, you're at home. You had the best record in the league. Opportunity there to take care of business, but it's not going to be easy at all. And if you were just ask me how am I feeling about Game 7, I really don't know right now. I have no idea. I could honestly see this going either way with the way that Indiana's played. By the way, those 3 teams that we just mentioned, the 70 New York Knicks, 78 Washington Bullets, that was over, I think, the Supersonics, and the 2010 Lakers. Those are the 3 teams, and those teams are 1-2 after losing Game 6 by 20-plus points. I'll check to see if there's a player that is ready at the podium. Not quite sure yet if we'll have a chance to hear from a player or not, but how are you feeling about Game 7? Probably pretty nervous. I would imagine the tension is going to be there. And that building will be so loud coming up on Sunday. Paycom will be absolutely nuts. But here's the big question. When things start going the opposite direction, how does that team respond on the floor? And the question is there for both teams. How do they respond in environments like that in 7? Was this the last gas push from Indy? How much do they have a ton left in the tank? Well, they got the rest of their guys too coming up there in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's no future after this at all. Like Game 7, it's go time. But the tension that was there when you felt Indiana crawl back within 2 in Game 5, and then they had 4 turnovers in a row, which happened to Oklahoma City tonight. There was a time there where they got close. Man, Oklahoma City had 4 turnovers, and it was gone after that. Like Indiana ran off and left them. I think after those 4 possessions, they had built an 11-point lead. But yeah, if you're in the chat, tell me how you're feeling about a Game 7 coming up. So there was a stretch where it seemed like a lid was on the basket. Seen that a few times this series with OKC, and that concerns me. Exactly. Because I know the common response will be, well, they're going to be at home, so they're going to hit these shots. Yes, statistically, they have shown to do that, but they've also had a few games at home as well where it felt like that the lid was on it. Will it happen 2 games in a row? How does Chet miss open dunks? Come on. Yeah, it wasn't a great game for Chet tonight at all. At all. Not the norm. And I felt like that Chet before tonight, and again, I keep referencing my keys that I wrote at news9.com. Yeah, please go read those. Put a lot of work into those. Dagnall had even said it after Game 5, said that, Chet's defense is basically their anchor. He doesn't have to have gaudy stats to shift a game. He deters drives. He switches on the guards. He makes life miserable for a lot of people in the paint, and gives them an opportunity to play small. They can be versatile. Can control the rim a lot of times without compromising some of their perimeter coverage. He forces Indiana a lot of contested 2s. Sparks transition from block. There just wasn't any of that tonight. Like tonight, it was Indiana's turn defensively to really be the most aggressive and the most tenacious team that was on the floor. All right, that'll pretty much do it for us. A couple of more comments. SGA said they're playing for all the marbles now. Yep, you're right. You're right. And he had a great quote. I think I have this quote from him, as a matter of fact, if I can find it here, from earlier. So I played this with Steve. And this was SGA from yesterday. And boy, does this not fit now.
It's been fun. Now, the cusp of winning is not winning. And the way I see it, winning is all that matters. So it hasn't been fulfilling. We haven't done anything the way I see it. But I've built great friendships along the way. I've had a lot of fun playing basketball, and I think that's where you start. And the organization and the guys around me have done a really good job of building an environment that's fun to come to every day, and really just focus on work and getting better. And I think that's why we made jumps.
Yeah, the cusp is not winning, and now that looks more and more like the case. Those conversations about looking ahead and projecting winning a championship. Someone was after me tonight on Twitter. By the way, the dude that produced the Oklahoma Breakdown documentary on Mike Hosty, which is a great documentary, by the way. He was like, yeah, see, it's stuff like this, because we were talking about having that image of celebrating. Like, that's not what caused them to lose the game. I know where you're coming from, because sports fans are superstitious on a lot of different things. That's not the reason, though, why Oklahoma City lost tonight, because we took a brief moment to look ahead. That's what we do in the media a lot, and that's what fans do a lot as well. All right. I think that will about do it tonight on this end. Whew. An opportunity goes by the wayside, and now you've only got one that's left. And you hate to have to put all your eggs in one basket in a Game 7, but that's the position that they have put themselves in as of tonight. Thank you to all of you for tuning in there on the chat. Always appreciate you guys jumping in with your questions and your comments. Thanks for hanging out with us here on News 9 YouTube channel. Also on X as well, if you're watching there. Lots of Thunder coverage coming up, news9.com, newson6.com. On the television side as well, as we get set for a game number 7 on Sunday, and what an atmosphere that is going to be there in downtown OKC. From all of us here at News 9 and News on 6, have a great night, and we will see you soon. Continued coverage of the Thunder postgame show continues on News 9's YouTube page.
Thank you for watching this Oklahoma's own digital studio stream. Stay with News 9, online and on television, anytime for the latest news, weather, and sports.